there, I'm Kat and this is Do All the Crafts. Today I'm going to be reviewing a miniatures kit. It's a 1/24 scale model of a living room decorated for Christmas. As you can see, my box took a little damage in shipping, but thankfully everything inside was okay. Another thing to note, that this does have a lot of Chinese writing on it. It does come from China. There was a slip of paper in here that advised you, if your instructions were not in English, that you could download them off of a website. Thankfully, my instructions were in English, so I didn't have to do that, but I do appreciate that they included that just in case there was any sort of issue or miscommunication, so that you could still do the kit. I enjoyed doing this kit. I did start it before I started doing all of these videos, so I can't open it for you and show you. I will be doing that in future videos when I review kits. Now I think we will take a look at what kind of materials you need, what I recommend, what came with it, and then what didn't come with it that would probably make it easier to make it. Then we'll take a look at the finished kit itself, and I'll tell you about some of my issues with it, what was difficult, what worked really well, and then come back here and I'll give you my overview and what I ultimately thought of it. So let's take a look at what you need. So here are the tools that come included with the kit. You have a tiny screwdriver, a ruler, X-Acto knife, tweezers, and scissors. I really appreciate that they're the angled tweezers. It makes it a lot easier to grab stuff and use them. Very useful for small miniatures kits. And you have your centimeter and then millimeter markings on here, which are really important for measuring things. So this is actually a really good set of tools. My first kit didn't really include any of this stuff, so I had to have it on hand myself. I would say that you might want a different pair of scissors, because as you can see, these are really stiff and kind of difficult to cut with. But that's a pretty common thing that you'll probably have on hand. The X-Acto knife is handy. It works pretty well. I do have a more ergonomic one with a little sharper blade, a little easier to use. It's better for curves and things. But if you don't have that, you can make do with the one that's included in the kit. So this will get you started. Unfortunately, the kit did not include glue. I think that they cannot ship those. Can't go on the plane. So you will need something like advanced craft glue, something that's fairly fast drying for most of the pieces. You can get away with using like a plain Elmer's glue on some of the paper parts, but keep in mind it takes a while to dry, so you probably have to hold it or pin it in place somehow. Now, the instruction booklet was a pretty good booklet. It gives you some warnings and things, and then it gives you a full list of all the materials in there, telling you how many pieces. You might want to go through an inventory, because they're all just kind of in bags together and not really labeled. So there's some materials that can look a little similar, some papers and balls and things. And so if you really want to be more organized about it, you may want to separate things out, because they generally come just in little bags like this. This is a few leftover pieces I had, and then these, which they gave me a lot of. You have other materials such as your greenery that you cut off and use in different things. Then of course you have lots of paper cutoffs you're going to get. This is a fairly heavyweight paper, not quite cardstock, but sort of like heavy magazine paper. It's a little bit shiny on the surface, so it's a pretty good weight of paper. It's not going to easily tear or get too drenched by glue. Now, the one issue I did have was the fabric. So these are some leftover pieces of fabric I had. You can see that it frays really badly. There's a lot of fraying on the edges, and that did get kind of annoying when you're trying to cut very small pieces. Certain fabric, like this one, you kind of expect, because it's more of like a burlap, jute, and you use that for the rug in there, so it's supposed to have that kind of look. But the other fabrics were a little bit difficult to deal with sometimes, so keep that in mind. You might want to get some fray check to put on the edges, or I sometimes just use Elmer's glue, put that on there. You will need some straight pins. Those are really handy for pinning some of the fabric to your template pieces. They give you a whole sheet of templates where you can use, it's all laid out so you can put it on the fabric in that order, and it'll cut it out, and you won't run out of fabric. So you can see there's the little pinholes where I pinned it on and then cut it out. So that makes it a lot easier than trying to just measure the fabric and hope you get it the right size, especially when you have curves and things like that. Some other things that might be useful, the curtains, it says to use a toothpick, but I found it really handy to at least start the hole with the seam ripper through the fabric. Now you will still need a toothpick to enlarge the hole, so I advise you have some of those around. They're also really good for applying small dabs of glue to different parts. This wire clip cutters are really handy because there are some wires you'll have to cut to length. You can also use the ends to curl it into different shapes. So if you have one of these, it can be really useful. It's not necessary, but it can be really handy. So that's generally the sort of stuff you will need. You may pick up and other things you want to use, but it includes most of the basics. You will just need to pick up some glue, and you'll need batteries for the lights. And those are going to be your small button cell batteries. This type, the really tiny ones. They're 1.5 volts. And you can usually find them in most of the stores. I think they're generally for like hearing aid batteries or something like that. So you're going to need 2 of those to operate the lights on the kit. My kit also came with a dust cover and a music box, which apparently is the more deluxe version. So if you go to look for this kit and buy it, if there's a cheaper one, a more expensive one, the more expensive one probably has the dust cover and the music box. And we will see those in a moment when I pull out the kit. So let's take a look at our kit and what I made. Okay, let's take a look at the finished kit. As you can see, it looks pretty similar to the picture. I think I did okay. I realized later that I did leave one piece out right here. This piece is supposed to be glued on under all the little Christmas decorations. Unfortunately, it doesn't give, sometimes skips over a little bit. As you can see in the instructions here, it talks about putting the conifers on, but it doesn't really go anywhere to tell you to put that part on. You can see it in the picture, but it doesn't specifically say to put it on. So I didn't notice that until later, and I really don't want to rip all of the little greenery off. So I'm just going to leave that be, because honestly, if I don't tell anybody, they probably won't notice. But besides that, we've got 3 different lighted elements. We've got our Christmas tree here. And we also have a light on the table and then the overhead light. So you will be running those lights wires through the bottom and down the back of the kit. And hopefully maybe you can get them a little tighter than I did in the back. But the thing I've noticed about some of these kits, this is only my second one, but the lighting wires are often kind of short. So be very careful to make sure that you leave enough lead room so you can actually hook them all together to hook them into the battery pack. These were fully wired when I got them. Like the bulbs were wired and they had it attached, and it was all a certain length, so you know you wouldn't mess up cutting it. You just got to be really careful with how you do it. You can also see back here, this is the mechanism for the music box element, which is kind of a pain to grab, but once you get it, you can get it wound up, and it's very loud. But you can have a cheerful little Christmas tune to your adorable little Christmas room. Now, okay, that will finish at some point. Anyway, you can see there's lots of small details in here. Got little plates back here. All of this you will make in the instructions for the book. So this all comes in pieces. You're going to basically upholster the couch, and basically the only things that you don't have to make are this little turkey and this dog. Everything else you're going to put together from different pieces, basically construct it all yourself. Now, the things that I found tricky, most of the stuff really wasn't that bad. The curtains were rather difficult. As far as like cutting them, the fabric wants to fray, so you really need to put something on the edges to keep it from doing that. Poking the holes and getting the wire through is rather difficult, so be prepared for that. You can do it. It's not impossible, but it may frustrate you a bit, so just keep that in mind. The main thing is to just take your time, do it slowly, read the instructions really carefully, look at the pictures because sometimes they leave out some of the written instructions, so make sure whatever you're making looks like the picture because the pictures are pretty accurate. Now there's a lot of possibilities for customizing on a kit like this. You could change out the flooring, you could put different paper on the walls, you could paint the walls, you could put different fabric on the couch. There's so many different things you could do with it if you wanted to make it more personal to yourself, or you can just make it to the standard and it looks pretty cute that way too. And I liked that they had some stuff. You got a little window box on the back, you got a window box on the side here. So they didn't just leave those really boring, so it does give it some added interest, and it makes, looking out the little windows, it has a little extra something there. All in all, I really enjoyed making this kit. I thought it was really cute. The instructions are pretty good. You just want to be really careful and make sure that you're doing things properly. The fabric is a little bit difficult to work with, so I would recommend either using Fray Check, or you can even put Elmer's glue on the edges and that will work. I've used that for a lot of different projects. But tweezers are super important, but those are included. Toothpicks, you definitely want to have some of those because getting the little tiny bits of glue on some of these really tiny parts is very difficult to do, and you don't want to put too much glue on it, especially on the paper, because it could make it warp. But this is only my second kit, and I think it turned out pretty well. I'm not super experienced, so I figure if I can do it, most people can do it. All right, so let's go back and just give a little wrap up to the video and talk about what we saw. Okay, so that was my review of this 1/24 scale miniature kit. All in all, I think it was a pretty good kit. There were some issues, but with a little finagling, you can fix it. It was actually easier than the first kit I did, but it was also a smaller kit. And I feel like some of the things were better done, like having the wiring already pre-put onto the bulbs. That wasn't like that in my first kit. I really appreciated that. With some of the other kits, you may need wire strippers, but this one had little caps. They pre-cut it so you could pull it off, and so that's not necessary with this one. It's a pretty good kit. I would recommend it. It wasn't very expensive. I think $25 or $30. You probably will mess it up a little bit, to be honest. I always kind of make some mistake somewhere. The big thing is just take your time and be careful with it. If you get in too much of a hurry, it's very easy for you to just skip something by accident, grab the wrong material. There's lots of little tiny gold balls, and there's like the medium ones and the small ones, and you might use the wrong ones, and then they don't really give you a whole lot of extra material. And it's very hard to get things off of things once you've glued them on there, especially if you have a decent glue. I will put a link down below to the item. I got it off of Amazon. And that's about all I have to say about this one. I enjoyed making it. I thought it was really cute. I didn't get to show you the dust cover, but there is a plastic dust cover that goes over the top of it. You do have to construct that yourself too. It's not really too difficult. You just have to be able to hold all the pieces up. I wanted to get one with the dust cover this time because I kind of thought about that after my first one, like how would I clean in these tiny little things? So you can buy dust covers separately if you get a kit that doesn't have one, but then that's kind of an extra added cost. I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It can be frustrating at times, but you do feel very accomplished when you finish it. So if you like that, then that'll be good for you. And I hope I'll see you in my next video. I should have another one up next Friday. I will be reviewing a craft book. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, then hit the subscribe button. And I hope you have a good day.